There are meetings so secretive, so shrouded in mystery, that the mere idea of them could send chills down anyone's spine. Imagine sitting in a room with one of the most powerful men on earth, Vladimir Putin. The stakes are high, the conversations are intense, and the truth is buried deep beneath layers of secrecy. But what if I told you that many of these meetings weren't meant to reach the public's eyes? That some of the world's most influential leaders met with Putin behind closed doors, and they didn't want anyone to know? Welcome to a world where power is traded in silence, where nations hold their cards close, and where the most covert meetings between Putin and the world's elite happen. Meetings that no one was supposed to know about. From billionaire tycoons to heads of state, these are the top 10 secretive hush-hush meetings between Vladimir Putin and the world leaders that still keep the world guessing. Imagine this. It's 2018, and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, as the world calls him, shows up in Moscow for an unannounced meeting with Vladimir Putin. No cameras, no fanfare, just two of the world's most powerful men locked in a room, talking oil, security, and maybe military cooperation? Wild, right? But here's the kicker. This was happening during the heat of the international uproar over the Khashoggi affair. Talk about risky. Now, MBS doesn't just sit on a throne. He controls a fortune that puts him in the top echelons of wealth. His family's assets? Over $1.5 trillion. That's more than the GDP of some entire countries. And you thought your stock portfolio was impressive. But what does that really mean? He's got massive holdings in energy. $1.2 billion in oil alone. Think about that. A single conversation with MBS could impact oil prices around the world, like flipping a switch. That's not just rich, that's empire status. And get this, despite all that wealth and power, the meeting stayed a secret until it leaked. Which leaves you wondering, what did Putin and MBS really talk about behind closed doors? Putin and Xi, a duo that doesn't just rule nations, they run the world's most powerful economic and military forces. But here's where it gets crazy. In 2019, these two heavyweights met in a secret summit. No invites, no media access, and no public statements about what went down. The world was left wondering, what did they discuss in that closed-door meeting? Oil? Military? Strategy against the West? Let's break it down. Xi Jinping leads China with an $18 trillion economy that's bigger than any country except the US and Putin. He controls Russia's vast natural resources, the kind of assets that could make or break global markets. Together, a powerhouse. They're not just sitting on wealth, they command it. Think, trillions in trade agreements, energy pipelines, and weapons deals. This isn't just about money, it's about shaping the future of the world. And get this, the meeting was kept so secret, the details still haven't fully surfaced. Russia and China, a pact so powerful, it could shift the balance of power in the world. What were they really planning behind closed doors? Viktor Orbán, the Hungarian Prime Minister, isn't just any European leader. He's one of the few who's consistently stood by Putin, even when the rest of the EU has turned its back. In 2020, Orbán made an unexpected hush-hush visit to Moscow, and you can bet this raised more than a few eyebrows. What could they have possibly been discussing behind closed doors? Orbán's wealth and influence stem from Hungary's deep ties to Russian energy, with Putin's support keeping his political grip tight. And while many EU leaders have been sanctioning Russia, Orbán, he's been pushing Hungary to resist, forging a path that many find controversial. Hungary relies heavily on Russian oil and gas, worth billions in trade. But this isn't just about energy. It's about power. Orbán's decisions impact Europe's energy landscape, and that's empire-level influence. But here's where it gets wild. Despite all the public scrutiny, Orbán's meetings with Putin remain shrouded in secrecy. Why keep this one so hidden? And get this, it's not just business as usual. Some say Orbán's friendship with Putin might be Hungary's ticket to energy independence, or a political gamble with serious consequences. In 2018, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu flew to Moscow for a private, behind-closed-doors meeting with Vladimir Putin. The talks: Syria, Iran's growing military presence in the region, Israel's security at stake. And what's wild? While Netanyahu is known for his open diplomacy, his dealings with Putin were kept tightly under wraps. Why? Because when it comes to the Middle East, secrets aren't just a luxury. They're a survival tactic. Now, Netanyahu may not be on the Forbes billionaires list, but his influence in global geopolitics is undeniable. The man has navigated the political minefield of the Middle East with precision, pulling the strings in a region where peace is often elusive. His power comes from more than just politics. It comes from the billions tied up in Israel's tech, military, and defense industries, sectors that fuel his country's strength and influence. But here's the kicker. This meeting, in the heart of Moscow, wasn't just about talks. It was a chance for Putin and Netanyahu to carve out a new balance of power in the Middle East. And get this, despite their public differences, these two leaders share a surprising level of trust. So, what were they plotting in that underground bunker? What deals went down in that room, hidden from the world? Maybe we'll never know. Or maybe, just maybe, we're seeing the pieces of a much bigger puzzle fall into place. Two of the world's most secretive leaders, and when they meet, the world holds its breath. In 2019, Kim Jong-un, the elusive North Korean dictator, made a rare trip to Russia and spent hours locked in talks with Putin. The details? Well, let's just say the world didn't get many. What we do know is that they discussed everything from denuclearization to North Korea's ambitions in the region, and of course, Russia's military backing. Now, Kim Jong-un controls an estimated $10 billion in military assets. Not exactly chump change. And Putin? Well, his wealth is intertwined with Russia's nuclear arsenal, one of the largest and most powerful in the world. Together, they command some of the world's most destructive weapons. That's not just power, that's empire status. And get this, despite their long-standing secret relationship, we only catch glimpses through diplomatic leaks. What's being said in those shadowy meetings, behind those closed doors? And why the secrecy? The stakes couldn't be higher. These two hold the fate of entire nations in their hands. Putin and Erdoğan, two men, two empires, one intense relationship. In 2021, these two powerhouse leaders met for a private summit that barely made headlines. Sure, their public meetings are well documented, but this one, it was a different story. The focus? Military cooperation, Syria, and Turkey's controversial purchase of Russian S-400 missile systems. Talk about a high-stakes handshake. Erdoğan's wealth isn't easy to pin down, but his country's military-industrial complex is booming. In fact, Turkey's growing defense sector is worth billions, and it's only getting stronger. Putin, on the other hand, controls Russia's nuclear and energy assets, which alone put him in the trillion-dollar range. These two are not just powerful, they're empire builders. And get this, despite their bromance, they're playing a delicate balancing act with NATO. It's a game of strategy, with both leaders pulling the strings in ways the world can barely keep up with. So, What were they really negotiating behind those closed doors? Maybe we'll never know, but it sure leaves us wondering. Putin and Trump, two figures whose private meetings could change the world. Back in 2017, during the G20 summit in Hamburg, they had a secret conversation that sent shockwaves through the globe. What were they talking about? No one really knows. But this much is certain. It wasn't about small talk. The issues, election interference, global power shifts, and who knows what else. They kept it tight. Just the two of them in the room. Trump's wealth has fluctuated, but with a net worth over $2 billion, the man commands more than just reality TV fame. He has stakes in real estate, branding, and global influence. Putin? His wealth is less visible, but his control of Russia's vast natural resources and military might make him one of the richest men on the planet, with assets in the trillions. Together, they represent a monumental force. And get this, despite all the controversy, those private talks, they're still mostly a mystery. What did they discuss? Was it just strategy? Or something darker, like the true power behind the throne? You'll never guess. Angela Merkel and Vladimir Putin, two of Europe's most powerful figures, yet when they met behind closed doors, it was all about secrecy. In 2018, Merkel made the trip to Moscow for a private summit, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. They talked about the fate of the Nord Stream pipeline and Russia's delicate relationship with the EU. This wasn't just a political chat. It was the kind of high-stakes diplomacy that shapes nations. Now, Merkel isn't just Germany's leader. She's one of the most influential politicians in Europe. With a net worth hovering around $11 million, her influence comes from years of navigating Europe's intricate politics. Putin, on the other hand, well, his assets are a little less visible. But with Russia's natural resources and military power, his wealth and influence are estimated in the trillions. That's empire-level control. And get this, Merkel, known for her pragmatism, never let the public know the full extent of these talks. Why the secrecy? Was she working to keep the EU's stance on Russia intact? Or was there something more? One thing's for sure, their relationship wasn't just business, it was strategic. When the kings of oil meet, the world listens. In 2017, Saudi Arabia's King Salman and Russia's Vladimir Putin sat down in a secretive meeting that sent shockwaves through the global energy markets. What was discussed? Oil prices, Syria, and the future of Middle Eastern stability, issues that could reshape entire economies. Putin, with control over Russia's vast energy resources, is no stranger to power. But King Salman? He oversees the world's largest oil reserves, with a fortune tied to the Saudi royal family's sprawling wealth, which runs into trillions. Together, they could make or break the global energy market. That's not just rich, that's empire status. And get this, despite being fierce competitors in the oil market, Putin and Salman share a secret bond when it comes to shaping the Middle Eastern order. Their alliance? Quiet, but powerful. What did they really agree on behind closed doors? The truth might be buried deep, and we might never get the full picture. But one thing's for sure, when these two meet, energy isn't the only thing at stake. In 2015, one of the most secretive meetings in modern geopolitics took place behind closed doors. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, made a covert trip to Syria to meet with Bashar al-Assad. The topic? Russia's military presence in Syria and the future of the Middle East. What was discussed? Well, the details didn't come to light until after Russia's military intervention was already in full swing. Talk about keeping things under wraps. Putin's wealth is tied to Russia's immense military power and energy resources. which are valued in the trillions. Assad's wealth is more elusive, linked to Syria's resources and the control of a war-torn country. Together, they hold the keys to shifting the balance of power in the Middle East. That's not just rich, that's empire status. And here's the kicker. The true nature of their agreement was kept so secret. It was only revealed once military operations were already underway. Imagine that. Decisions that could change the entire region, made in the shadows, without anyone ever knowing what really went down. Makes you wonder, what else are they hiding?